Hello everyone and welcome to my next video log. I am Alan. I am recording here at my quarantine bunker, aka my office. So this time I want to talk about something a little heavier. We might go a little longer, we might go a little shorter. I don't know. But this is just something I've been struggling with. Before the pandemic, it was a problem, and I've been struggling with it some since the pandemic has begun. This is something I think is pretty universal for everyone, but in different degrees, different levels of severity, and uh, different ways, different time periods, and that's anxiety. So, I've dealt with anxiety. Just to give a little background, I've dealt with anxiety a lot of my life, most of my adult life, in some degree or another, and just sort of, kind of up and down here and there. And out of the blue, it just got really bad late last year around November for no foreseeable reason, nothing that I could point to in my life, circumstances that said, "Oh yeah, this is something I should worry about." It's just the least little thing would get to me and it's like burrowing into my head. I don't want to get too deep into that because this is more about the pandemic and the log there and how I'm dealing with that now, but just to give some background, late last year it became really bad. It kind of got better through the holidays. I was spending time with friends and family, had some time to kind of decompress, and then it got bad again once I got back into the swing of things. In January, there were some external circumstances at that point that I could point to and say, yeah, this is why I'm worrying. But even after those were taken care of, pretty handily, pretty neatly, without any repercussions, and in fact, were handled with some benefits coming out of the end of it. And I won't get into those specifically, but you know, early January, despite the issue that spiked it again, and then the resolution, it lingered. So I went to the doctor, which I've sought treatment on this before. I've seen counselors both through church, both through, as well as through like a licensed counselor, like a therapist type situation. And those are helpful. So I saw some of those again. I saw my doctor. I am on another medicine, something different than I was on something before. I'm on something different now that helps more with anxiety. And that really helped me. But for about a month, from like mid January to mid to late February, it was really bad. And like to the point of like I lost like 10 pounds in a couple weeks. That it was kind of like that bad, just from not eating, from anxiety, from all kinds of things. And I'm being candid about this because I believe there's a lot of stigma around mental health and anxiety, and I think we should be candid about this. We should be open about this. So if you're out there and you're suffering and you're afraid to speak up, know that there is help available. You can find help. I wouldn't necessarily recommend what helps for me, helps for everybody, especially in the realm of medicine. I think that's very helpful. I think it's an option on the table. So definitely talk to your doctor about that sort of thing if it is severe. But I'm not going to say definitely pop a pill and be done with it because the medicine helped me tremendously. It helped me kind of get out of the hole, but it didn't just fix everything for me. But anyway, I'm going to be candid, a little vulnerable here because I believe it's important to be. So again, fight the stigma. Hoorah! Your help is available. Um, so right as I was kind of climbing out of that hole, starting to feel better, a global, worldwide pandemic hit. Oh, 2020, am I right? It's like whack-a-mole. I think I don't know where I was going with that analogy. Oh, one thing popped up, I hit it, and then it popped up somewhere else. So now there's a pandemic. So that's been my personal biggest issue. I know other people are dealing with other things on top of anxiety, things like job loss and health and loneliness and all kinds of things like that. So again, like, oh, there's a lot going around. I don't want to minimize any of that, but for me personally, anxiety has been the biggest struggle, and it's honestly been helped. I'm glad I went through the issue that I did earlier this year because it's helped me with what's going on now. But I just wanted to go over a few things that I think are have been helpful for me with this pandemic and before this pandemic, and just in general for anxiety. These are things that there's for a lot of it. There's literature out there, studies, doctor recommendations, that sort of thing. I highly recommend everybody do your own research. Be careful. There's a lot of bad information out there when it comes to health. Use discernment, use wisdom, talk to professionals, talk to people who know what they're doing, even they disagree sometimes. But in any case, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. These are just some things that have helped me that largely are derived from studies, but I'm not an expert. I'm, legally obligated to say, I think. I'm not a lawyer either, so I don't know if I'm actually legally obligated to say that. These are just some things that have helped me, and I hope they help you. Again, though, just want to stress for the third or fourth or fifth time, I don't know. This is not medical advice. I am not a doctor. If you think you need help, see a doctor, please. But aside from that, here are some things that are helpful. First of all, stillness. What do I mean by that? So, mindfulness is a popular term that's cropped up over the last few years, and it basically just means being still, being calm, emptying your mind, meditating, that sort of thing. I think maybe it's been a little overhyped. I don't know. There are definitely studies out there that say different things, and some of them have good data, some of them have other data. But by the time the study information gets to us, it's been filtered through the media and through articles of so-called experts. So there's a lot of misinformation out there about that. So I can't speak to mindfulness there. There's good information out there too. Again, I don't want to dismiss it. It's on the list. Literally, I put it on my list. But this is a different version of that. I'm not promoting necessarily the mindfulness movement and all of that, but I am promoting a form of it, which is, to me, I think stillness is a good word. It means just kind of taking a moment to step back, to sit, to think, yes, but mainly to kind of empty your mind, to just breathe. Not necessarily empty your mind and like a yoga pose and say some mantra. No, I'm not necessarily advocating that, but there's a meditative aspect to it. For me, I like to kind of sit. Sometimes I like to walk and do this as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be sitting, but to just kind of take a step back, take a breath, think, pray, meditate. Not just meditate on randomness, but meditate on. For me, I'm a Christian. Meditate on the Bible, on the Word, on the Scripture. Meditate on God. Meditate on just again, none of these are mutually exclusive. They all kind of interrelate to each other. So I'll talk more about things to meditate on later. But I think just taking that step back and just kind of being still, catching your breath helps a lot. It's good for calming down. It's good for, this is also something that helps with anger. It helps with worry. It helps with stress. It helps with any sort of high intensity emotion, I think. So stillness, that's number one. Number two, thankfulness. Again, these flow into each other. So while you're meditating, think of things to be thankful for. There have been studies out there that have shown that even the act of coming up with something to be thankful for, just thinking through, looking for something to be thankful for, has helped improve anxiety and worry. Whether you come up with something or not, but I think most of us can come up with something to be thankful for. At the very least, you can be thankful that you're alive and have the cognitive ability to sit and think through things. But there's so many things to be thankful for, and I'll probably elaborate on this more in a later video. But I think, it's easy to look at the problems and the chaos and the pandemonium and just internally scream like I'm prone to do whenever I'm anxious. But stepping back as part of that stillness is thinking of what you've got available to you and what you're thankful for. Number three is walking. So I started walking regularly back in January, actually a little bit last year, but more so in January whenever my anxiety really spiked, and it helped. Like at first I would walk like just up the road and back on the sidewalk, and it'd take 10 or 15 minutes. Now, and then whenever I got really bad, when things were really rough, I would walk, sometimes an hour, hour and a half a day. Then it kind of toned down a little bit once I calmed down. Then whenever the pandemic hit and the lockdown hit, I started walking usually about an hour a day, 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. But I like to take a rest day at least. But about an hour, 55 minutes to an hour. For me, there's a loop that's like 3.28 miles or something around my neighborhood that takes that long to walk if I follow the loop. And it's not really a full loop. There's some like weaving in on each other, so I could get that 3.2 at least was my goal, was at least a 5K. But anyway, the walking, part of it is exercise. There's benefits to walking. It improves your health. It improves your heart, your lungs, get your muscles stretched out and warmed up and all of that. But for me, the walking was really more of a mental thing. It helps with the stillness. It helps with the taking time to think, to pray, to do whatever whenever I'm not burdened by all the distractions in my apartment. And especially in the pandemic, to get out, get fresh air, get sunshine. There's health and medical and mental health and spiritual health benefits, I believe, to fresh air and sunshine. And so I'll walk. And it got to the point whenever I would be disappointed at rainy days because I didn't go out and walk. And there was a time or two I even went out whenever I knew it was probably going to rain and got rained on and didn't regret it, which is weird. That's weird hearing that out of my mouth. But I love walking. I love just observing the nature around me. I live in an apartment complex, so my walk is between other large apartment buildings and a road on a sidewalk. So I'm not like in some big flower garden or forest or, something like that where I'm, deer are skipping past me and I might see a squirrel or something, but there's still green grass, there's still vibrant green trees, and it's been interesting seeing the grass go from like the dull brown of winter to vibrant green, verdant green, to use a fancy word, over the last few months, and hearing the birds sing. There's something revitalizing about that, and the clean, fresh air and all of that. And it's just, it's weird. It clears my head mentally. It gives me time to think, and I think better doing that than if I think just sitting around or pacing around my apartment or even just driving, which was another time I spent thinking a lot. So walking, that's another one. Another one I'll probably talk more about later. Second to that one, this may sound redundant, but exercise. And on top of walking, which I said was more mental, exercise, I think, helps a lot. It helps with general health because you're improving your cardio, you're building muscle, you're, general health benefits of exercising if you do it well and, don't hurt yourself. Back in college, I lifted weights, I ran, and I enjoyed both. Then I got out of shape after college, and I started hating both because they hurt, and they hurt a lot. And so now I've been easing myself back in. I can't go to the gym right now. I have a few light weights, like 12-pound dumbbells at most, but I'm mostly doing body weight exercises at home, some squats, some push-ups, some other dumbbell exercises and planks and stuff like that, jumping jacks. And I've been trying to experiment to build a routine that builds, one, it does cardio because I'm doing them, because I'm doing body weights, I'm not having to be so slow. So they definitely help my cardio, but they also help with building muscle. They help me mentally and spiritually and all that as well too, because of endorphins or something. I'm not a doctor or physiologist or biologist, so I can't speak to the exact mechanisms in my body that does that, but doing exercises helps with my mental health. There's immediate, I'm kind of feeling like, oh no, it hurts, why? But then like shortly after, like right now, I exercised about 40 minutes ago after a walk, and then I took a shower, I drank a small Gatorade, and now I'm here, and I'm feeling pretty good. It helps with my anxiety. It helps, there's something in the chemical and hormonal processes about it, but it helps with general health as well, and I think anything that helps with general health usually helps with anxiety. So next up, similar to that one, diet. This is one I can't speak to personally because I have a terrible diet. Before this pandemic, I ate fast food and I ate out almost every meal. It was terrible. And now I'm being forced to cook more, so we'll see if that improves. I still do a lot of DoorDash, not so much DoorDash. Postmates has been my go-to lately because they have a lot of free delivery codes. I don't do a lot of it. I'll do it like once or twice a week, support the local economy, stimulations and all that. But in any case, for the most part, I've been cooking. I've been eating sandwiches and fruit and other stuff like that. We'll see if that helps my anxiety, if it helps with general health. It's supposed to. And I believe it does. I believe the literature on that subject, but that's the one I can't really speak to personally, but I've heard others say the same, and I've read the studies. Another one that's related to that, and it's a huge one that I struggle with, is sleep. Get enough sleep. Try to get in a good rhythm. Wake up at the same time every day, which generally requires going to bed at roughly the same time, but from what I've read, waking up at the same time is the most important because your brain and your body, your circadian rhythm, learns when to wake up, and it starts that physical wake-up process, whereas if you wake up whenever you, like by an alarm, which, waking up by alarm is fine, I do that. Most people do that, but when you wake up at the same time, it's like your body's preparing you to get awake, and you're not like having to force yourself awake. I don't do that. Again, this is something that I don't do well. I have done it in the past. It went about 2 weeks and then stopped happening, and I don't know why. I don't know why I started. I don't know why I stopped. It happened after a trip to Europe for a week, and so I'm guessing that jet lag stuff did something there. But it was a profound difference whenever that short time, those 2 weeks that I slept well. But getting enough sleep, making sure you're getting 8 hours or 9 hours. Some people need more. But I'd say at least 7 or 8. That's what the literature says. It's different for everybody, but try to get enough sleep. Be in tune with your body. Sleep well. Your body needs it, and it helps with anxiety. I'm more anxious whenever I don't sleep well. 100%. That's every time I struggle whenever I don't get enough sleep, or if I just wake up on the wrong side of the bed, as they say. Another one is, this one's a little unique. This one's related to meditation and stillness and that sort of thing. But talk back. Whenever you're anxious, talk back to those anxious thoughts. Figure out, why do I feel this way? Think through, what is making me anxious right now? What am I worrying about? What am I concerned with? And talk back to it. That's something that's challenging. It's something that takes practice. There's a whole field dedicated to it in psychology called cognitive behavioral therapy. It's a big, scary term that sounds fancy, but you don't have to be a doctor to do this. You don't even have to be guided by a doctor, although that helps. If you need to see a counselor, talk to them about this. But there are books. One I recommend is called Feeling Good, which sounds super silly and self-help and Dr. Phil, but it's written by a medical doctor with training in psychology and psychotherapy and therapy and all of that sort of thing. And it's been helpful for me. My doctor recommended it. Just ways, it's super practical. Like it's not like, oh, I need to know how the curves and folds in my brain work and just all the neurons. It's nothing like that. It's just as simple as, what am I worrying about? Oh, I'm worrying that the economy will crash and I'll lose my job, and then I won't be able to make payment, and I'll end up on the street and all that sort of stuff. And those are scary things, legitimately. But just stopping and thinking, well, what if that? And so, sometimes it's not even just those more legitimate sounding worries, but it's, well, if I lose my job, I'll be a failure. And it's thoughts like that sometimes we don't realize we're having. But if you think through it and actually like hammer it down, then you'll see that and you'll realize, no, I'm not a failure for losing my job. This one is one I can't speak to as much in terms of expertise. It's helped me for sure. I can attest to that. Just to be able to nail these things down and to have your thoughts. And I believe there's, the scripture talks about saying to your soul, hope in God, and saying, why do you not hope in God, and that sort of thing. So I believe there's a spiritual component to it as well. But in any case, highly recommend looking into this and trying this, not just letting your thoughts dictate your feelings and your emotions, but getting a rein on those sort of things. Next, similar to that one, is planning. I think this is number 8. I've stopped numbering. But planning is something that can help. It's like you think, okay, well, I'm worried about losing my job. What can I do right now to help prevent that? So put some savings away. Realize, start looking at, well, what are these stimulus things going on? What are these loans that are available? Should I do these? Are these things good ideas? How do I do unemployment? Start planning for that. You can go way overboard with this and just hurt your anxiety. So again, I don't want to say have a plan for everything, be like Batman, every contingency, but think about realistic scenarios that can potentially worsen things and figure out how to mitigate those. There's also things, think long-term. It's like, well, right now in the pandemic, I can't necessarily do these things that I think will help. I can't really build up an emergency fund that I didn't have in, 1 month and then have it throughout the rest of the pandemic. But once this thing's over and once, long term, make some of those plans and have a plan to stick through them. They can give you peace of mind. Again, don't trust in these 100% because plans fail. That just happens. But that doesn't mean don't plan. And then it also doesn't mean don't be so obsessive about it. Just be reasonable in how you do this. Be careful in how you do this, and think through, related to this, what are some unique opportunities I have right now? For me, it's, well, I talked about this a little last video about time, but I have more time. I'm not commuting, so I can take more walks. That'll help me with my health so that I can build my immune system, so that I can, take care of the cholesterol and blood sugar issues that I apparently have and get those nipped in the bud. I can spend more time exercising. I'm not eating out every week, so I can save a little more money. I can learn to cook better. And, there's unique opportunities for some people in the pandemic. Not everybody, again, especially some people are as busy as usual. Some people are busier than usual, especially in the healthcare field. But anyway, look for the unique opportunities here. Plan for what you're able to, and then, leave the rest to God. And then lastly, I would say cut yourself some slack. I just listed like 8 or 10 things to do to help with anxiety. And for a lot of people, I know for me, listening to a list on this, I've seen a lot of videos like this on YouTube in the past few years when I've struggled with anxiety. It just spikes my anxiety. I think, oh, well, I got to be still. I got to be thankful. I've got to walk. I've got to exercise. I've got to eat right. I've got to learn to wrangle my thoughts. I've got to plan. Oh my goodness, I'm never, ever going to get all this done, and I'm going to be anxious forever. And no. That's the opposite of what this video needs to do for you. Please just cut yourself some slack. This is a unique time. This is a different time for everybody. So-and-so over there is bragging on social media that they've cured the common cold or something while they were, I don't know, they've they've done something amazing. They've written the great American novel while they're on quarantine and lockdown. Don't measure yourself against them. You are you. You have your own unique circumstances. As far as this list goes, pick one thing and try it a little bit. Don't try to do everything all at once. Be manageable. Think, give yourself grace. There's a level, you've got to be responsible, you've got to be careful, you've got to take responsibility for your actions, but there's an element of no matter what you do, there's got to be grace there for yourself and for others. And so cut yourself some slack. Don't don't just don't overthink it, I guess is what I'm saying, even though I'm prone to do that myself. Anyway, I hope this is helpful. Again, I'll probably elaborate more on some of these later. And again, I'm not an expert. Please, please, please don't don't use this in lieu of medical advice or anything like that. Don't take my word as gospel truth. I am not an expert, but I slept at a Holiday Inn last night. No, I didn't. They're closed. I'm not. I lied. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But in any case, again, I hope this is helpful. Like, comment, subscribe below. If any of this has been helpful for you, or if you can attest to some of these things having been helpful to you in the past, let me know in the comments. Until then, stay well, stay safe. Thanks for watching.